This video is sponsored by Newsbreak. Newsbreak is an app used over 1.5 billion times a month by people just like you to get local news via articles or videos by those who are focused on that specific area. People like myself. Just use the link in the description of this video to download it. Then search a city, state, or someone specific, like myself, Colts Law. Then make sure to follow them so you'll get all the news fresh as it comes out.
All right. So I guess now you understand what the plan was.
Absolutely. At Colts Law, we talk Indianapolis Colts football.
We're going to stick to what we know, fundamentals and technique, 1% better every day.
Welcome to Colts Law. I'm Lawrence Owen. This is Colts Loyalist, and today's topic we're going to be discussing who is going to be that top wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts in 2021. The Indianapolis Colts obviously brought back T.Y. Hilton during the offseason, and we have multiple players that many people believe could have breakout seasons this year for the Indianapolis Colts outside of T.Y. Hilton. Players like Campbell, if he could stay healthy, obviously. Michael Pittman Jr. is on that list, right? And there is a bunch of unknown wide receivers for the Indianapolis Colts. Last year, the top receiving player on the Colts wasn't even a wide receiver. It was Nyheim Hines, the running back, who got the most receptions for the Colts. Well, first and foremost, do you believe that a running back will end up with the most receptions for the Indianapolis Colts in 2021, Loyalist?
I do not. I think because of the quarterback situation and just the type of quarterback that Rivers was last year, he was really known, especially later in his career, for using his running backs and getting his running backs involved. Carson Wentz is much more geared towards the tight ends or the wide receivers. So I'm not saying that they won't be used. I just don't think that they're going to be the dominant big number receiving this year.
See, a lot of people believe that the reason why the running backs were used so much last year in the passing game was that the wide receivers were unable to get open and he had to dump it off. But I don't believe that is the case. I believe that at some points they were able to get open, but he just didn't have the arm strength necessarily to get the ball in a tight window, whereas Carson Wentz will have that arm strength to get it in a tight window when needed. So going into the 2021 season, we are going to discuss the top three options for the possibility of the number one receiver for the Indianapolis Colts, and that is, we've already named them, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., and Campbell. Why don't you go ahead, Loyalist, and start off with the first guy? You take the first person and discuss why you believe that person can make and become the number one receiver for Carson Wentz and the Colts this season.
Okay, so like Michael Pittman Jr., for me, I like his size. He doesn't have that 4.3 speed, but he has this very good long speed. And his strides and his strength, and he's not a low level route running type of receiver. He gets open. He can create separation. He does it with his size, and he does it with his route abilities and stuff. He's very consistent as a receiver. I think he's really good at the yards after catch after he makes the reception, and he's not easy to bring down. He's not the guy that's going to go down at first contact unless you take him out at the ankles. He's very, very physically talented in so many different areas that I like the roundedness of his game. Like you said, you got T.Y. and Paris, and they both sort of fall into the speed lane. And whereas for me, Michael Pittman, I feel like with his size, with the 6'4" frame, and the speed that he does have, I think he's got a real strong potential to be our number one receiver this year.
Well, one way to get a lot of targets is to be on the field a lot. And Michael Pittman Jr. does have something in his arsenal that will allow him to get more snaps than T.Y. Hilton or Paris Campbell this year, and that is he. As you said, he's a big bodied guy. He's very good in the run blocking game out on the perimeter, which means he will be out there the majority of the time, not just to run routes as a wide receiver, but to block in the run game as well. So that'll help get coaches more opportunities to see him and do different things. So yes. Also, Michael Pittman Jr., not necessarily known for his speed. He's a 4.5 40 kind of guy, but a lot of analysts have looked at his film and said, you know what, he's very deceptively fast out there on the field. You know, if you're not paying attention, he will run right by you, just like in the game against Green Bay, just like in the game against Buffalo. Hey guys, please smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and tag that notification bell so that you're notified next time I go live. Don't forget, you can also share this video to your favorite social media, and please open up that description of the video. In there you find a link to my Patreon, which is only $5 a month. Get all of my content plus Patreon specific content, and of course my merch shop right here. A guy that I believe probably is the number one look by most people would be T.Y. Hilton, brought back for another season. He got a little look at free agency this season before the Indianapolis Colts finally re-signed him and brought him back on a one-year deal. T.Y. Hilton obviously has the experience, has been there, done that, played with multiple quarterbacks. For the longest time, he played with a quarterback very similar to the Indianapolis Colts' new quarterback right now in Carson Wentz, and that was Andrew Luck, a guy with a strong arm and the ability to move around in the pocket and not afraid to take those chance throws. Both guys very similar in that situation. So T.Y. may have a connection early on with Carson Wentz because they are very similar. T.Y. also has very big similarities with a former wide receiver of Carson Wentz and Deshaun Jackson, right? Deshaun Jackson was that go-to guy for Carson Wentz while he was there in Philly, and T.Y. Hilton plays a very similar game. A lot of their stats and how they play kind of mirror each other. So I expect T.Y. Hilton to have a good season as long as he can continue to stay healthy and be on the field for Carson Wentz. I'd like to go ahead and get to the third guy on this list, and that's Paris Campbell. And not a lot of people really outside of the Indianapolis Colts nation really know much about Paris Campbell because Paris has been hurt his first two seasons in the NFL, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. He runs a 4.3 40. And he is 6 foot tall. That in and of itself makes him a danger every down that he is on the field. This meaning when he's a 4.3 40 means he has the speed of guys like T.Y. Hilton or Tyreek Hill or those other really fast receivers, which means he could take a top off a defense. But he's 6 foot tall, which means he has average size. And that's something a little bit different for wide receivers in the NFL. How do you cover a guy like that? Do you put a speed guy on him, cornerback wise, to cover him? Because if you do that, he's 6 foot. He's going to be able to use his body and outbody that person, out physical that person. Do you put a bigger corner on him? Because if you do that, generally those guys don't have the speed to cover you downfield on speed routes, such as drags and things of that nature. Or crossing routes. So from what I saw on film over the last couple seasons, Paris Campbell, when he is on the field, is a very dangerous weapon, especially, as I said, on drag routes, on crossing routes, on post routes, things of that. It's something where he's going across the middle of the field. He does a lot of damage, especially yards after the catch. So he may not lead if he stays healthy in catches. But because of his yak yards, you could legitimately see Paris Campbell lead the team in yardage total. What are your thoughts on T.Y. Hilton or Paris Campbell?
I agree completely that you said T.Y. is going to have an uptick this year because last year, it took him a while to get on track with Phillip Rivers. And even then, when he did get on track with Phillip, he wasn't using the full T.Y. arsenal. Ty is known for spreading the field, getting open downfield. And as you stated earlier, Phillip just didn't have a whole lot of arm strength. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of arm strength when he'd entered in the league, and let alone 17 years later. But like you said, Ty, I think also is going to garner a little bit more attention than the other wide receivers because of his history, because of the name that he's created in the NFL. So I think that may slow Ty down on his, having a good, fast start. But I think that also opens it up for the other two with Paris and Michael. And like you said, with Paris Campbell, this guy, I mean, I love the fact that, you don't know, is he going to be a sweep? There's just Frank Reich, I think, has been, ever since the day we drafted Paris Campbell, I feel like Frank Reich has just had this part of the playbook that he's itching to put into the game plan, but he just can't, because we really didn't have that tall, fast receiver, like you said, because you're not going to want to send Ty out on run plays a whole lot. Paris Campbell, like you said, he's got great vision. He's great in open field. The yards after the catch, or in this case, the yards after the handoff, he's going to be dynamic. So like you said, the yardage and the getting into the flow of the game, I can see Paris actually getting a quicker start than Ty. And as far as where the things all end up, only Frank knows.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who the number one receiver for the Indianapolis Colts will be this season. We could see a little bit better start to the 2021 season as opposed to the 2020 season, even though it was Phillip Rivers, who is known for his accuracy, who started last season, but it was a slow uptake. It took a while for Phillip Rivers to get into that mold and to understand the receivers and the players that he had around him and the playbook because of the COVID offseason. This year, there is not that, and Carson Wentz is holding individual practices with his wide receivers, getting to know these guys on a personal level as well, to try to get to understand them and get as much of a jump on the 2021 season as he possibly can before training camp begins. I can't wait to see it, and I want to thank you again for being here with me as we discuss who the number one wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts will be in 2021. I'm Lawrence Owen. That is Colts Loyalist, and you are watching Newsbreak. Have a good one.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.